Former WBA flyweight champion Hekkie Budler was due to fight at the end of March for the first time in a long time in South Africa. The fight was one of the early coronavirus victims, and Budler was this week named a successful recipient of money from the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture Relief Fund. 55 other boxers and 5 amateur boxers were also listed on the communication from governments. The sport was among the most successful applicants for relief, along with athletics and golf. Boxing, as a full contact sport, looks asked to get back in the competitive. Boxing South Africa CEO Tsholofelo Lejaka.
At the moment, we haven't presented specifically proposals to government, but there is an intra-sectoral discussion around the subject. The Board of Boxing South Africa will receive recommendations, and based on their decisions, will then present a case for the minister's consideration.
Do you know how long it'll take before you guys actually do present something to the minister?
I think that by end of May into early June, we should be able to present that. There's, I think, scenarios that we have received, but I can't comment about that at the moment because it's still work in progress.
I'm sure you saw last weekend we had UFC put on a fight night. And it was heavily criticized. I mean, one of their bouts couldn't even actually go ahead because one of the fighters tested positive for the coronavirus just at the weigh-in. So have you looked at what they're doing in UFC and other countries to maybe see what is possible, considering that boxing is a full contact sport?
In all fairness, from a boxing point, at this stage, we can't even start talking about that. The principle in boxing is safety first. Until we can guarantee safety of participants, safety of spectators, and everybody involved in the value chain, we can't even take that risk. And I think that we have unequivocally said that the National COVID-19 Command Council is in charge of the directives in this case. So even the proposals that I'm saying we are working on, we'll obviously have to run them through the National Command Council, through the minister, and that decision will have to be made at that level. And that's where we stand. At the moment, we do not have any knowledge of any of our licensees who have tested positive. And we'd love to keep that clean sheet. We can't be contributing to anything to the contrary.
Tsulu, some federations have said that they won't survive the coronavirus pandemic because they just don't have the kinds of savings to continue operations without their athletes, their coaches, and those involved in the sport actually being active. Is Boxing South Africa safe during this time as a business case?
No, we are not safe because obviously in the absence of boxing activity, there's also revenue that's not coming to Boxing South Africa in respect of one licensing. We have had to stop that. Sanctioning fees, we have had to stop tournaments, so we're not getting anything from that. But our biggest worry is about our licensee population, our boxers, trainers, managers, matchmakers and promoters themselves as well as ring officials. There has been some assistance that has come from the national minister through the National Relief Fund. There are now interventions that have been pronounced by the provinces calling for applications also from a relief. But you see, this is a relief. It's not a reimbursement of what would have been ordinary earnings. So we are not safe, and I think we are part of the broader sector that has been hit by this COVID-19 reality.
What are you doing as the CEO of Boxing South Africa to just try and mitigate the impact of the pandemic that we now find ourselves in?
In the immediate and of importance is to assist our licensees to access these national interventions. Let me give you an example. With the National Relief Fund presented by the minister, we had to recall some of our staff members, obviously under mitigated measures as was outlined, to ensure that we assist each and every eligible licensee to apply. And that is why when you look at the total number of people that were approved from the boxing, out of just around 68 applications or 69, we have approvals at the rate of about 55. There's about 12 that have been declined. We are currently in the office now assisting them to appeal. We will continue to do the same again with the provincial applications, because the best that we can do as a regulator is to reinforce our licensees so that they access these interventions.
What do you make of a Mike Tyson comeback?
I must first start with a disclaimer. You know, I'm a Mike Tyson fan because my school ages are of the 80s, so you can imagine. I was just hypnotized by Mike Tyson. But in reality, though, given the age that he is at the moment, it's something that's exciting, but that must be approached with caution. He's an exceptional character, and I hope that there's not going to be many who will try to emulate what he is doing.